Everybody, thanks for joining me. So I'm in my pajamas. I was in bed. Ooh, my glasses are dirty, and my face is washed, ready for bed. And I was going to watch Tom Bauer on Kinsey Schofield, and then I'm like, why don't I watch it with the people who haven't watched it yet? So I downloaded the video. Ooh, my glasses are dirty. So I downloaded the video and I thought we could all watch it together. And I thought that would be so much fun. It'd be better than watching it upstairs in my bedroom alone. Poor Stephanie is exhausted. Steph, you. Steph is exhausted, as you can hear. She's on the phone. Okay, here's the thing for today as far as like mom goes. My mom is not feeling a lot of pain, which is good. So we go to the orthopedic surgeon tomorrow, and we made her food, and then she decided she didn't want the prosciutto and salami that Stephanie made. So we had to whip up together. She likes it when I fry peppers and I fry eggplant, and then I put a little bit of cheese and on a baguette, and she likes that. So Stephanie's now freaking out because she's like, she doesn't like anything I make. So that's the holy thing. Stephanie, everyone can hear you right now. Stephanie, everyone can hear you. All right. Okay, guys. So I thought it would be fun to watch Tom Bauer together. Who has not watched it? And let's just get some people in the chat before we start. Hi from Ohio. Oh, thank goodness it's on. I was ready to go to bed. Hi, Sidley Squad. Hi from Australia. Hello, Terry. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It makes things less lonely. You haven't seen it, Lulu's mom? Yay! I'm glad for those who waited. Now, this is not me saying, hey, let's watch it together and take numbers from Kinsey. I think Kinsey is awesome. Kinsey is like the bomb, in my opinion. She's beautiful. And if you do watch this with me and you haven't watched it, go over there and just give her a like on the actual video so we can just give her some numbers too, because I'm not trying to like poach her video or anything. I'm just like, oh my God, Tom Bauer, he says he's writing a book again, and we all remember how good Revenge was and how factual it was, and it's going to be so freaking awesome. I'm so excited. Hey Betty, hi Nancy, I haven't seen it either. Yay! See, this is so much better than watching it in bed alone. Well, I would have been alone. I would have had Brody and Lady with me. You can't hear Stephanie, not to worry. You know, it's like this Italian temper that sometimes comes out. And we're so stressed out because nobody wants to see your mom in pain, or, you know, you want to get her better. And it's like Stephanie's in the other room. We both are on no sleep. We're both taking care of mom. There was so much banging going on at my house. I'm not trying to be gross. There was so much banging going on in my home today because yesterday they framed the downstairs powder room, and then they were now putting up the drywall, the walls. I don't know. My dad's a huge fan, so let's just put it that way. But I heard that they're giving out Charlie Kirk shirts at the game because he's a huge Oregon Ducks fan. I did not know that guy was an Oregon Ducks fan. He's not from Oregon. Why is he a Ducks fan? That's so funny. The most like progressive liberal state in the world. My dad went to college at Portland State University, which and then he served on the board for a while. And oh my God, you want to talk about progressive? Whew. My dad was the most conservative man on that board. It is cray-cray in Oregon. But yeah, go Ducks. She's on ibuprofen too. They gave her Vicodin. And then I think on top of that, they told her to take some ibuprofen. And then she has a nausea pill and then something else. I don't know. But we're going to keep you up to speed. So, oh, good. To the people that have not watched it. Okay, stop with Charlie Kirk. Terry, I was just saying because he's a Ducks fan. I read it in the Oregonian today. I still read my local paper. I'm sorry. I'm not going to talk about Charlie Kirk at all. I apologize. Okay, so here we go. Let me grab the interview and then we can watch it together. And this will be a lot of fun. Let's see what I put it under. Oh, I put it under Kinsey. Should I wait a couple more minutes? Thank you, Susie. They're from the Gap. They're from the Gap. Well, you understand? No, I know. I'm not trying to be cheeky or anything. I know it's, you know what? This isn't a political show. We're all here on the same side. And, I just want to make it, I live in Oregon. That's why I read it. So they always say you gotta stay true to your local news before you watch the MSM news. They're like, you can watch mainstream media, but make sure you stay on. My parents always taught me that. Watch your local news, read your local paper. So, yeah, that's the big thing. The Oregon game. We're Ducks, and then we have the Beavers too. We have there's Oregon State University. And then there's the state of Oregon. I don't know. It's the opposite. There's the Beavers and the Ducks. And then they have that rivalry every year. And it's like a big deal. My dad goes to it. I don't really care. Yay, another live. You made it. Beaverton. Yes, Lulu's mom. You know Beaverton. And yes, it is called Beaverton. It's all my show. Steph's exhausted. I told her to sit this one out. She's in her room. She might come out. I don't know. She has the option. Hello, West Coast ladies from NYC. Oh, it's kind of late there for you. So let's get to Tom Bauer. I agree. I think we have enough people in the chat. Okay, so here it is, guys. Guys ready? Are we ready? This is going to be awesome. Okay, so let's watch Tom Bauer on Kinsey. Yay.
Kinsey Schofield here. Welcome to Crown and Conflict, a series dedicated to dissecting the most riveting royal scandals in history. This week, I'm joined by Tom Bauer, author of Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors, the defining book on Meghan Markle's very brief history as a working royal. Revenge is a forensic assessment of Meghan's character and her ruthless ambition, cementing Bauer's reputation as one of today's leading investigative biographers. Before we get into it, Tom, ludicrous headlines over the weekend suggesting Prince Harry could somehow worm his way back into the fold. It seems like Sussex PR is in overdrive lately. Are you seeing that too, or do you feel that way?
Well, I do think that Sussex overdrive is unbelievable, but I mean, I don't think that he is going to get back in. I mean, I think that there are two reasons. One is I think that William wouldn't allow it, and secondly, the moment he got back to America, he immediately promoted Disney and his trip to Disney World, which showed that he is very commercially minded, which we'll get into later on, which makes it impossible for him. And of course, Meghan wouldn't come back to Britain. So I think it's always the same. He wants his cake and eat it.
Isn't that the truth? All right. So Revenge was released in July of 2022. Since then, based on polling and media coverage, how would you describe the trajectory of Harry and Meghan's reputations professionally and personally? It feels like they've taken quite a bit of a dive.
Yeah, I think professionally they've gone down dramatically. And I predicted it in the book, but even I would not have thought it'd be that accelerated. I think personally, I think they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Right.
The Netflix series is over. There's no great podcast. They don't generate any money. And I don't see where she is going from here. I think she has a major problem. And I think as of this week, the signal for her great problem is that she turned up at Kevin Costner's party for the emergency workers,
which she skipped
California.
last year. She skipped that last year. That's a great point.
Skipped it last year, and that was very critical because at that moment last year she was about to promote her Netflix series and didn't want to firstly be seen with Harry.
I apologize.
Secondly, didn't want.
We're gonna play the full clip. Sue Smith had it like 3 days ago, or when we did the live, she had it and sent it to me, and we haven't covered it yet, but we have the full clip. Harry looked like he wanted her off that stage really fast. So we're gonna cover that tomorrow. So fear not if you want to watch it.
To go somewhere where she'd appear cheap and give it gratis. And this year, she is desperate to be seen.
Yeah.
And that's why she turned up. So I think she has a major problem, financially and professionally. And I think that Harry has a problem because he's lost his charity centre Bailey in Africa. He had better up, and all these commercial deals are declining. I think that his reputation is somewhat toxic, and I think Invictus is his only lifeline, and there'll be problems with that too.
I mean, we've
So,
seen people leaving Invictus recently. Important, I think that's you mentioned the Disney special. Does the Disney special at all look to you like an influencer pivot? Because that's what I was like, oh my God, oh no. I mean, they're spokespeople.
absolutely. I mean, the moment they went there and allowed themselves to be photographed, and I thought, well, how much are they being paid for this? And quite clearly, they're being paid to promote it this week too. It'll work in the sense that I think it's Disney today and some sort of butter spread tomorrow. I mean, that's the trajectory they're on, but they're going to have to earn some money.
That's true. Did anything make the cutting room floor when it came to revenge simply due to space? I know that publishers love chopping up well-researched books, without any hesitation about like you're sitting there going, no, this is so important, but sometimes it's just about shrinking a book down.
I mean, you've got to remember, it was a Pathfinder, the book, and even the publishers couldn't quite believe some of the things which I discovered. And one of the big things at that time was sensitivity reading. There was a great fear that she would play the race card. And so, for example, there were great arguments about whether you could call her strong-willed or not, because she at the time was playing herself as a black woman, and black women, if they're strong-willed, that's seen to be a stereotype. I think that would now not occur.
Mm.
I think there were various things about her sexual life which I dropped out on the grounds of privacy laws in Britain.
Oh
I
my
think there are
God,
other
I have
things.
got to get you intoxicated, Tom Bauer. I would love to hear those stories.
Yeah.
Do we really need him explaining her life like that? I mean, do we really need that? I mean, it would be funny, but tell me in the chat, do we really need that? It feels like TMI, and we look, we probably already know most of it. Didn't Harry write about it in Spare? About how like she ripped his clothes off at the Soho house? No, we don't need it. Okay, good. Other people are agreeing with me. I'm just like, I'm already picturing it, so I don't really need it. So, I mean, she had to land them somehow. Good gracious.
I think I've forgotten them.
Oh no.
But
Then
I
apparently they
think
weren't that good.
they were very good.
Oh
I mean,
no.
I mean, the privacy laws are pretty strong here, and that's what she used as a weapon at the time. So
Yeah.
there were quite a few things about her personal life. I'll work them into another book, I think.
Oh my goodness, Tom Bauer. I love that deep tease right there. That's something that we can look forward to. What
We know he's writing something on her because he was at Invictus in Whistler. Do you guys remember that? We have the video of Sussex Squad being super rude to him and him just like not backing down. He still sat there and they were being, oh God, they are just vile, disgusting people. I mean, he's an elderly man, a prestigious man, an author, like, and then you just say those words to somebody just because he wrote a book. Yes, they were horrid, but you knew back then he was doing something. So this is going to be the best book ever.
what did you think? Because in your book, Spare, you talk about how Earl Spencer was concerned about how this marriage might be trouble. And you say at William's request, Earl Spencer weighed in. He went to Prince Harry and said, you should reconsider this, pump the brakes. His advice provoked a bitter reaction, you say. Well, later we find out that Prince Harry since moving to the United States, approached Earl Spencer to ask permission to legally change his family's name. What was your response to that Harry would want to take the Spencer last name? And does it surprise you that Earl Spencer said, I don't advise it?
Well, the answer is, unfortunately, that was one of the revelations, or many revelations, in my forthcoming book, which I had and heard about this months and months ago. It was actually when they were at Althorpe filming for the Netflix series that he asked Charles Spencer, because for some reason Meghan didn't like the surname Mountbatten Windsor. If you remember, in her first. Uh,
You know what's funny? I would take Mountbatten Windsor. I mean, how prestigious, how cool would that be? It's like the most known last name ever. You'd have to be an idiot and not know anything about the royal family for you to not want that last name. It's crazy.
Lifestyle series with Meghan with them forever. She says to Carling that her surname isn't Markle but Sussex.
Mm-hmm.
And she was desperate to get it. She said we'd never had a proper surname. And of course they did. But so it's now Sussex, although she keeps on being called Meghan Markle. But I think that she did go to, and that she wanted to get rid of Mountbatten Windsor because she didn't think it was the right name for her children at school. And Spencer said very forthrightly to their face, no, under no circumstances. I think Charles Spencer probably doesn't think the marriage will last forever and just didn't want his name to be associated with Meghan if the event of a divorce. That's my guess. But I did know that he was absolutely emphatic that she wasn't going to have his name.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
got to remember another thing about all this as well. And of course, we might come on to this, but in uh, in Meghan's mind, she is Diana. I mean,
yes.
Diana Spencer is Meghan Spencer. And that was all part of her imagination that somehow she could inherit the glow of her dead mother-in-law. So I think that was another reason for Charles to say no.
Absolutely. If she were to separate with Prince Harry, the Diana 2.0 could continue to live thanks to the last name. That would get, that it would still give her that royal sparkle that she needs. I do have that. Let's just jump to that. Meghan believed she was as important to the monarchy as Princess Diana, you write in the book. And her visit to Australia in October 2018 only boosted that view. The more Harry drew parallels with his mother and the more Meghan must have been convinced of her importance to the monarchy. Do you still think she's that delusional? And maybe the answer is watching her at Kevin Costner's 805 Live event in $300,000 worth of jewelry, including Diana's Cartier watch.
Wherever she is, whether it's at Costner or in Colombia or in Nigeria or wherever, she's always, her publicist will reveal that she's wearing one of Diana's pieces of jewelry. I do think that the Australian trip turned their head in a crazy way, although she behaved appallingly during the trip.
Yeah.
But in Harry's view, this was his mother all over again. What Meghan never really understood, probably not even now, is that when she was cheered as a working royal, it wasn't because she was Meghan Markle, it was because she represented British royalty and all the values of the Queen and all the tradition and 1,000 years of history. So people were cheering not just the person, but also the institution. I mean, clearly she was very attractive and she did.
I didn't have my mic on. Thank you so much. What would I do without you guys? I just wanted to say, once and for all, can we say in the chat, is that the actual Cartier watch that Princess Diana wore? Or is it like a watch just like it? Because I have heard two different versions of this. I can't imagine Harry giving her that watch or Prince William allowing it, but do we know once and for all if that is the actual watch that Princess Diana, like that blue ring, what is it, is it a sapphire? I don't think that's real. I don't think that's the actual Princess Diana but that's my opinion, so let me know.
Magnify and was magnetic for her own in her own right. But the idea that she was Diana was always a fantasy, both of herself and of Harry. And Harry completely misunderstood his mother, who he obviously barely knew, and didn't realize what a manipulative and determined woman she was herself. So he completely misjudged the comparison between Meghan and his mother had amazing status. She looked beautiful. She had terrific poise. She worked very hard at being a royal. She was very empathetic with a lot of sick people. None of the things that Meghan would ever dream of doing. I mean, Meghan would never go and spend day after day in hospices and hospitals and with the poor. She really wanted to go and party with Elton John in the south of France. So the comparison between the two was ridiculous, both as in looks and in poise and in background and everything else, plus the work ethic of Diana.
I think it was over a year ago. I reported that I had heard that Prince Harry was trying to work on a Princess Diana documentary, and now it's being reported by other people. Prince Harry developing a Princess Diana documentary. You just said what I keep saying. He didn't know this woman. Like I mean, I don't mean to be cruel, but he's off at school. I feel like she's become this martyr saint character in his head. Is he really the authority when it comes, especially when it comes to the death?
Quick story about this, and I know they're not watching right now because why would they watch this show? But my cousin married a nice girl, really nice girl. But when you come from an Italian family like ours, it's weird to do this. But he married a Mormon, so he converted to Mormonism. They have 3 beautiful sons. They're Mormon as well, but they never showed much interest in my grandma. And one day, years and years and years late after my grandma had passed, my cousin's wife, very nice girl, I have nothing negative to say about the Mormons. I think they're the nicest people ever. She called my mom up asking questions about my grandma and my grandpa. And I never knew my grandpa, but my mom was very close to my grandpa too. When he died, he was only, I mean, she was only 18. It hit her really hard. And she was asking questions and questions. Well, later we find out allegedly that there's this thing Mormons do where they baptize the dead so they can then have in their family tree that the Mormon, that those family members are Mormon too. Now, my grandparents were devout Catholics. And at first when I heard that, I was really upset. I was she was doing genealogy work, but wasn't she doing, but don't they baptize them, right? I mean, I could see genealogy work. If she was just doing genealogy work, she would have just asked my uncle, who's my cousin's dad, my mom's twin brother. But she didn't really do that. I mean, it's not that hard to, I mean, when you come from an Italian family, you don't really need like 23andMe. You already know, you get it drilled in. But yeah, I was upset. I was very upset because it was like, well, where were you guys when she was alive? Now all of a sudden, so it was really, yeah. So I know, I get what Tom Bauer and Kinsey are saying right now. It's like Harry barely knew his mom. So it's like, it's a little annoying when they're not there, when they're alive. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I miss them so much. It's like, well, if you miss them, why didn't you ever go visit them? But that's for another day.
Of his mother, where he, and I'm not saying I should make a Diana documentary. I just wonder how accurate a documentary on his mother would be from, by him, surrounded by all of these yes people.
It would be totally inaccurate. I mean, from his own book, where he says for a long time he thought his mother had just disappeared and now believes she'd been murdered by the paparazzi, which is ridiculous. She died because she was in a speeding car with a drunken driver, not wearing a safety belt. But also, he doesn't realize that she wasn't murdered by the media. She played with the media. Diana was a huge influencer, a huge manipulator of the media. She collaborated firstly with Morton in his book, and then she collaborated in a Panorama interview. She'd repeatedly see chosen journalists and feed them information. So the idea that his mother was a victim of the media, she was a master of the media and a master of media manipulation. So he'd get it completely wrong. And of course, the one thing which I do sympathize with him is that his mother clearly was completely misjudged and to become Charles's wife, and that was a catastrophe. And in that sense, his father, for good or evil, didn't treat his mother very well, and it all became very, very sad. But I don't think he. I think, however, that if he did a program about his mother, that would be for money,
Yes.
and I think it would be a shocking act of further disloyalty, not least to his father. And he can't play it both ways. Does he want to come back or not? If he wants to come back, which I think will be a problem for him, he certainly can't make a film about his mother.
I think it would infuriate.
Grizz, I agree. I have you ever seen that South Park episode, you guys, about the Mormons? Matt Parker and Trey Stone, they even they did a interview about when they wrote that episode because it's such a popular episode, and they're like, we couldn't write anything mean about them because they're just nice. They're just nice people. They've never tried to convert me in any way, so I have nothing against the Mormons. I did have a problem when uh if they were trying to baptize my dead grandma and grandpa who were devout Italian Catholics, to say then in whatever history books they have them be Mormon. That's the only problem. But as far as people, I went to prom with a Mormon. Yeah, his name was Andy. I went to prom with a Mormon. Figure that one out. Me.
His brother, like you said. In Revenge, you talk about how Meghan's lack of knowledge about British history meant she could not understand that Diana had won the public's affection after years of work. That was a real investment. People felt committed to the journey because they had spent so much time watching Diana really grow up. I think that I think that pairs nicely with what we're talking about with Prince Harry. It's just that lack of understanding. She just thought that, she could burst in and say, look at me, I'm here now. Everybody accept and love me. And she didn't really take time to get to know the process.
I think there was that, but I've got to tell you,
I wish. Kinsey, if you're watching, I love you.
research for my new book, the number of times she was warned before she married what the nature of being Harry's wife and part of the royal family would be, and the nature of how she ignored all that advice for two reasons. One is she really did believe she could do what she wanted. And secondly, I don't believe she ever intended to stay.
Mm-hmm.
She always intended to take the title, take the connections, and get back to California, especially after she saw, and this I think is a critical thing in her life, that it was William and Kate who were
Yes.
going to be the stars, and not Harry and Meghan, and she didn't want to play second fiddle.
That is so true. Well, you mentioned that when you talk about this incredible Australia trip for Harry and Meghan, that's when they decided they wanted to step out of William and Catherine's shadow. But they were much bigger. They didn't need all this. As of mid to late 2025, Harry and Meghan's popularity in Australia is at an all-time low. Polling indicates that they're among the least popular members of the royal family, and public perception has declined significantly since that 2018 royal tour. They haven't been back since. Why wouldn't you nurture that popularity? It's nothing they do makes sense to me. If they really did think that this Australia trip was the end all be all that changed everything, why wouldn't you try to nurture a fan base, because they're celebrities now, in Australia?
Well, I think there are 2 points there. Firstly, the Australian government would have to invite them.
Mm,
And secondly, they won't invite them because the British government and the British royal family would make absolutely sure that no invitation was forthcoming. Because the
mm.
one thing they don't want is them treading into the Commonwealth. The Nigerian trip was bad enough.
Yeah.
but the British government made sure there were restrictions on what they could do. But I don't think the Australian government would want to invite them. And I think the other side of their travels is they'll only travel where it's free.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'd want to spend the money of going to Australia. It would cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what for what? What are they selling? That's the point, you see. When did their other foreign trips, Meghan was selling her cereals and selling her commercial things, the jams or whatever, the image, the brand. That's all taken a huge hit now. She is facing a crisis. What does she now do? She's fired her biggest shots, the best shots, and they're duds. And Harry has nothing to sell either. In fact, he hates selling. He just wants to be a charity worker, which is pretty limited too. So I think they've got a real identity crisis,
Mm.
which will be resolved in the next few months, one way or another. And I don't think it can be to the good. But the point about it is, you see, they're notorious. So just watching them is great sport, because if they turn up at Kevin Costner's beach party, one just wants to see what efforts they're making to be famous and loved.
I like how he called it Kevin Costner's beach party. It reminded me of Back to the Beach with Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello.
We just enjoy the spectacle of these two who will have spent hours and hours preparing themselves. I mean, Meghan spends hours successfully making herself look beautiful and choosing her clothes and all the rest of it. For what? It's for us to talk about them, and we talk about them because we're all desperate to see how the story ends. And there's a long way to go.
Yeah, it is a morbid curiosity. I mean, when people ask me about it, I just say I can't stop. Look, it's like I'm so fascinated by some of these poor decisions. I mean, you're right about Australia. I should have thought about that, but to me, it was just such a missed opportunity. If that's where they really felt loved, Meghan doesn't even send product over to us. She can't even send product over to Australia. So, nothing that they do business wise makes a lot of sense to me. I'm curious about your new research. In Revenge, you analyze the discrepancies between their public personas and the Sussexes, their private behavior, suggesting that their claims of victimhood and even charity work were often exaggerated and fabricated. There's been no real improvement to their credibility since you wrote this piece. Have you found other examples of them exaggerating their victimhood or their charity work?
I mean, you've got to understand, which now is clear, that Archwell, their company, is not a charity, it's a commercial organization. They give very little money away for charity because they haven't got much money in the pot. And compared, for example, to Bezos, who gives away hundreds of millions, they give away a few thousand. I mean, it's very small.
Don't you love this though? Don't you love the fact that they're listening to this, okay? And they thought at the beginning of all this they could bury people like Tom and Kinsey and people like us. And it's just like he is just coming at it right now, spilling facts, bulletproof. I feel like Revenge was the tipping point for letting us finally talk about it. I felt like this was like, okay, everything that is being said is true, because he wouldn't have put it in this book. The man's a solicitor. And you're right about the charities. Like, he's so great. I love this. I love doing this with you guys too. This is so much fun to watch.
And diminishing. And that is part of their problem. So the victimhood, I think, by now has been pretty played out. I mean, no one is going to listen anymore to them bleating about being racist and being victims of racist and all the rest of it. They've played that out. I think now they're at a threshold. We're speaking at a very critical time for them, that they actually have to prove what the next stage is. And does she write a book? Does he do something foolish like a documentary about his mother? What do they do to retain the initiative? I mean, there's only so many times that she can produce photographs of her children without their faces, or especially when Trump was in London last week, she posted a picture of herself picking flowers. I mean, she always seeks an opportunity when there's news about her enemies to post something, and it's just very amusing how desperate she is for retaliation, for saying, "Don't forget me," for saying, it was a nightmare if I'm not mentioned. I can't survive without being seen, and that's her great problem. I mean, she's not invited to the great A-list parties, let alone the B-list parties. I
Yeah.
mean, who is she anymore? And that must worry her and worry Harry too. Although it must be said that when he was in London last week, I mean, he does have a way with children. There is a residue of goodwill towards him when he does his charity acts. But he had to give away $2 million to charities to get some sort of credibility. 2 million, which I don't think he's got much left for that year's savings. So they're trying terribly hard, and it's just fascinating to see at what stage they're going to fall.
It is. It does reek of desperation sometimes. Hi, all. I want to share a brand that I love, Peak. Peak has taken a
Okay, Kinsey. Go check out Peak. I don't even know what it is. Again, guys, Kinsey facilitated
to
this
each
interview,
other.
obviously. Make sure after this, you go at least hit the like button on this video. I don't want her to think in any way we're trying to poach the video and get her numbers, because this is really great of her to have Tom on, and Tom to be on, and it's just we need to thank them for that.
After Meghan's first introduction to Harry's friends in 2017 during a shooting weekend at Sandringham. It didn't go very smoothly, you say. You describe her challenging anyone whose conversations clashed with her values and taking issues with jokes about sexism and feminism. I mean, the kind of jokes you'd hear from a bunch of boys that have known each other since they were younger. Harry's friends reportedly felt that she repeatedly reprimanded them and called her a real dampener of the party, to which I would say to you, and this is the woman trying to teach us how to entertain on Netflix, this buzzkill. What else did Prince Harry's friends say? That she just was the fun police?
Well, I mean, this particular saga at Sandringham, which obviously was told by someone who was there, was a decisive moment. I mean, it's the moment where effectively she says to Harry that you've got to dump all your friends. And none of those people at his shooting weekend were then invited to the dinner after the wedding. I mean, that was the crunch, that she separated him from his hinterland. And of course, he does suffer now enormously by not having a large number of the friends he had in London. In fact, his friends in England are despair and they're furious with his behavior, and many of them won't speak to him. But that weekend, it was a decisive moment. What she couldn't understand, that Harry's class of people on Friday afternoon, Friday evening, it was when they oil their guns to get ready to go off and have a good shoot on the Saturday, either partridges or pheasants or whatever. And these are big occasions, especially on the royal estates. And it's like when she said to Harry, "You can't shoot anymore." And of course, shooting isn't just getting the birds; it's all part of the social fabric of country life in Britain. And what it showed was that she wasn't going to make any concessions to the class and the sort of people which she was going to marry into.
It's amazing how she can be so judgmental towards them. And I mean this with the royal family too, but take everything she needs to help elevate herself. Like if you can't stand these people or the idea of class, then why are you titled the Duchess of Sussex on a Disney infomercial on Hulu? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, absolutely, that is her hypocrisy and her narcissism and her commercialization, and frankly, her appalling behavior, that she
Mhm.
never intended to stay in Britain, but just took the title. And in the end, what I really hold against her, she betrayed all those people who tried very hard, from the best of intentions, from the Queen downwards, to make her feel welcome and believe that she would integrate herself into the royal family, into Britain. What she couldn't understand was the language. She couldn't understand what being royal means. She didn't understand the nature of trust. And that's the thing about Meghan. She's a very, very deceitful person. It's got to be said, in her relationships with her own family is one side, but the other is that all the inaccuracies which she told Oprah Winfrey, which of course caused huge damage to Britain's reputation
Like
around
one
the
very
world and still do, and continued in all her interviews to promote herself. I mean, even in her podcast with Lima, she said there was the cosmetics woman. She said, you know, it was life with the royal family was battle of the trenches. I mean, the thing about Meghan is, which is very important to understand, I think that when she set off to create her own brand and image in the whole Netflix series of lifestyle series, she was told she had to give up being the Wicked Witch in terms of the royal family. She should put that all behind her and not mention them because people want to see her, not all the time complaining. She couldn't resist because in the end, one of Meghan's many deficiencies is she has nothing to say.
Mhm.
There's no originality. There's no profundity. She rehearses lines, she rehearses quotations from
Laura.
poems, but actually, she's not a fundamentally interesting person. And the interest is how someone of that nature can become a global celebrity. And of course, the only reason is because she married into the most famous royal family in the world and junked it
Yeah.
and never stopped speaking about it. And that has been an amazing draw for her. She's made a huge amount of money, causing the misery to people who only had goodwill for her.
And gave her that platform. Yeah, so many people that reviewed this book talked about how they did get a sense that you admired Meghan's ambition. Do you agree with that or do you disagree with that? That you, in studying her, admired what she was able to accomplish or admired her ambition? And I ask you that because what you just said, um, it kind of felt like that you at least acknowledge that what she's accomplished is significant, but you don't like what she did with once she got to the finish line.
Well, she's not on the finish line yet, but
Yeah.
on the whole, yes, I agree. I mean, yes, I do admire. I admire anybody who starts from nothing and then gets a sort of success, not just people like Meghan, but also often very controversial and inverted commas criminal businessmen or
Yeah.
politicians and all the other people I've read, or the music people. I mean, I do find people who climb the greasy pole and junk victims on the way and are ruthless in their ambition fascinating. And I think that is what makes Meghan fascinating because in the end, there are very few women who were C-D-list actresses who were really completely unaccomplished, but who in the end have perfected an image. And it's got to be said, I mean, if 75% of people disapprove of her in polls, 25% do approve of her. And she does have a following, especially in Africa and countries like in South America, because of what she said on Oprah Winfrey. They see her as the victim of dreadful white elitists.
Yeah.
And I think just to have created that image is awful, but it's spellbinding. And that's what I. But the only thing is with these people is that sometimes I meet the subjects of my books, and it's a very interesting conversation. I can't imagine a conversation with Meghan actually is terribly interesting.
No. I
I don't think there's a depth where we'd get much beyond why she pours oil on her lettuce leaf or puts her you the chips in a different bucket and that sort of thing. I mean, she can't cook
no.
uh, and all the rest of it. But
Thank you. Thank you for putting it exactly. She can't cook. How come we can't say it as plainly as Tom Bauer? The girl can't cook.
she does look always. She works terribly hard at appearances, works terribly hard at smiling in the right place. The Richter's smile is amazing. I admire her ambition. I just despair about the way she's treated other people. And
Right.
that is really quite the dreadful. And of course, everyone is just waiting for how she's in the end going to treat Harry. Will she dump him? I mean, that's just always the question. That everyone wants to see how's that going to work out.
This is almost perfect. This question I have prepared for where we're headed here. You write that Meghan was unable to accept that no one was counting the box office receipts of the crowds she attracted. You can see in recent interviews with Bloomberg, Jamie Kern-Lima, how important validation is to her. It's almost embarrassing the way she tries to sell herself to us. I work so hard. And then she just needs people to admire her, and you're just like, do you ever take a day off?
I think that what she learnt was that people would not admire her for the marriage. That's how she became famous. That people in America tend to like someone who's made it themselves. The climb from obscurity into global fame is what people want to see. So when she sort of suddenly announced that she was a latchkey kid and had to eat takeaway dinners, whereas before she'd said that she used to eat very healthy food and go to some fine restaurants, which of course is the truth with her father.
Yeah,
I
remember
mean,
her
that
dad
was
would
it.
take her to ballet, a very expensive ballet class in Beverly Hills, and then they would go to the deli that had $20 club sandwiches. So that $4.99 salad bar at the Sizzler doesn't make a lot of sense, Meghan.
But it didn't make sense except that she wanted to rebrand herself as having risen up from the depths. And
Yes.
that's what it's all about. Please recognize that I'm a great self-made person. But of course, she isn't self-made at all, other than that she snared a prince. And that's her image problem. And that's why the series looks so artificial as ever, Meghan, because in the end, everyone knows it's a rented house. She can't cook. Her offers of what you do are just frankly ludicrous because no one could prepare platters of fruit like that for the children in the morning, all the rest of it.
He's bringing up
And
the fruit.
there's a huge contradiction in Meghan. You know, she has promoted herself as the great feminist, the great philosopher, and all the rest on one hand, the victim of the racist royals, and on the other hand, she's just a traditional American mom.
Mm.
And you know, one or the other. You can't be both. Well, heck, Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, what am I? Am I a
Right.
duchess or am I an American mom who has to get breakfast for the children? You can't. You know, that's the problem for her, and that she has that problem because there's nothing other than creating a brand because there's no depth.
That is so true. The reason that it's is all over the place is because there's little truth involved in the persona she's trying to create. If there was any truth, she wouldn't be the lines wouldn't be all over the place. It would just be like, yeah, she is a feminist icon.
My mom always told me, and I think she heard it on Judge Judy, but I don't know who said it first, but my mom always said, it's really not hard to tell the truth because then your story doesn't constantly change. You'll always remember it. So I think she heard it on Judge Judy, but she always said that. It stuck with me. It's true. Oops. Sorry, guys.
Witnesses support this description.
Ooh.
You've got because you know my blood, like everything else, my blood type is overachieving. The great philosopher and all the rest on one hand, the victim of the racist royals, and on the other.
Oh, sorry to have to show you those pictures again.
Be all over the place.
Look at how Kinsey stares at Tom Bauer. I think I would be exactly like that if he was on the show. I'd be like, what? I'd hang on his every word.
You've got because you know my blood, like everything else, my blood type is overachieving.
Oh my God.
And I think that is her. I mean, she has to build herself up as this overachiever, this very special person. And of course, to some extent, she is special because of what her history. The problem is she can't sustain it for much longer, and that is a major problem for her.
Yes, there has to be more depth there. I mean, this is right in line with what you're saying. One of the themes you keep circling back to in your book is Meghan's obsession with perfection. but it's in both how she's seen and in whatever she puts her name on. So her projects as well. You even include testimonies suggesting that when things don't go her way, she spirals, reaching out to anyone that can try to fix the situation, whether that's 5 a.m. emails or whatever. In the Vanity Fair piece American Hustle, Spotify witnesses support this description completely, that she tends to spiral when things don't go her way. We haven't heard some of this testimony from the producers of the new Netflix show, although she lost the first team that were working on Harry and Meghan. They brought in a new team that actually executed the Harry and Meghan project. Do you think that there's changed behavior, or do you think Netflix just has better NDAs?
Well, I think the NDAs are critical because one of the casualties, so to speak, of my book, Revenge, was the stories about her in Montreal in that fashion shoot were so unbelievably damning of her. And all the people I spoke to clearly broke their NDAs to talk about her appalling behavior in Canada during that shoot.
Is that the shoot where somebody called her a mean person?
That's the least of the negative things they said about her. They hated her at the end of that shoot, and the book describes why they hated her. And of course, what they've done now is they're much, much more careful about who they recruit to film and work on these series. And believe me, I've tried very, very hard to get through various people, all these people involved in Spotify and all the rest of it, and some have broken their NDAs. But on the whole, what you've never really.
How do you break an NDA? That to me is crazy. Like, what does that mean? How do you break an NDA? I mean, I'm telling you guys, those are rock hard. I had to sign one when I worked at that private school for obvious reasons, but oh my gosh, how does someone break it?
Got, perhaps until my book comes out, is an eyewitness account of what it's like inside the mansion in Montecito. I mean, how do they live? What happens when things go wrong? How does Meghan actually cope with these dreadful reviews she's had? And what's fascinating about her is you never.
It depends. You can sign it for. It depends. The person that you sign the NDA for depends. I've been to parties where I've had to sign NDAs. When Stephanie would go to when Stephanie was dating Will Smith's stuntman, and she would go to the kids' birthday parties on the weekends, or just anything at their house in Calabasas, Westlake. Sorry, she would have to sign an NDA. It's just standard. I mean, it depends, but I can only imagine Meghan's are just like super ironclad. I bet you I still think to this day, Stephanie and I sometimes disagree on this, but that Jessica and her husband, Jessica Mulroney and her husband, had to sign an NDA when they did the Australia tour. Remember, she went as Meghan's stylist, and that's when Meghan announced that she was pregnant. I think she signed an NDA for that bad boy, that whole tour, but that's just me.
Never see an ounce, a glimmer of misery when she's outside on parade.
Is that better? I just turned it up. Sorry, guys. Some of you want the volume turned up. I hope that helps.
She always comes out immaculately dressed and smiling. And you know, that takes huge courage. It takes huge inner strength and self-conviction. And of course, time. She's very careful not to emerge till she's actually composed again.
It depends on the NDA. I'm telling you, there's all sorts of NDAs. You could sign one that says if you break it, you must pay this person $5 million a year. Or, I mean, it scares you enough that you don't want to break it. Let's just put it that way. Yes, there could be serious legal issues. Mostly it's money. They'll come after you for money. So, yeah, that's, I'm pretty sure Jessica signed one. I'm pretty sure she did. But that's just me. I hope she didn't. I'd love to read a book.
And never talks about it. I mean, the whole problem she found with this last Vanity Fair issue, the hustle issue, is that she couldn't control the content, and she is somebody who believes, understandably, she's got to control everything down to the last full stop.
They'll go after everything. They'll go after your I don't know how it works. How do bill collectors do it? I don't know. Like you hear about people, what do they do? Like repo men? I don't know. They come and they take your stuff. I don't know how it works exactly, but you have to think to yourself, there has been so many NDAs signed throughout the years by housekeepers, by nannies, by teachers like me, like people that just go to a party on the weekend. And you, if they weren't as ironclad as they were, there'd be a lot of NDAs broken, and you'd read a lot of books. But yeah, she said the Kardashians, like they've admitted on their show before, they say before you can even walk into our house, you have to sign an NDA before you even get through the front door. So yeah, there's some, yeah, it's gonna be bad. I don't think we're ever gonna see a broken NDA as far as Meghan goes. I bet you she got Doria to sign an NDA for sure, allegedly.
But is it courage that we don't see her break, or is it the fact that when she tried to do that, like in the Tom Bradby interview, in the Oprah Winfrey interview, even in the New York Times opinion piece that she wrote, there wasn't a lot of, I mean, initially there was a lot of sympathy for her with the Oprah Winfrey interview, but that turned to resentment when everybody started coming out saying, well, we're going to fact check this and it's not very accurate. Does she recognize that people don't admire someone in a privileged position that is consistently complaining about their life, no matter what their circumstances are?
Well, I think that's right. And you're absolutely right in saying about how tearful she was in the Bradbury interview. No one's asked me if I'm okay. The tears with Oprah and the New York Times about her miscarriage. But the point is, you see, that her credibility sank.
Oh my God, I'm so glad he brought up the miscarriage. I don't feel like such a monster. A lot of people will be like, you guys are monsters for saying that she lied about it. It's like, I'm pretty sure she lied about it. She not only lied about it, she plagiarized that story, the miscarriage story. And plus, it kept changing. Again, Judge Judy, stop changing your story.
Once all the inaccuracies, 17 of them, in the Oprah Winfrey interview emerged, like, for example, she hadn't really been married in St. George's Chapel, or this ridiculous conversation about the color of Archie's skin because he would get police protection. It's all lies. And that is exactly where she suddenly realized, and this again, her performance is always very carefully gauged, that she couldn't anymore play on emotion in that way. I'm sure she's very tempted to, but have you noticed she doesn't do TV interviews anymore in the same way? And when she does, for example, at the Time 100 interview in New York last year, it was so contrived, so meaningless, so that she was able to escape unscathed because no one asked her the pertinent questions. I mean, she's very careful not to be made vulnerable, as she was in the past. She realizes vulnerability won't score for her anymore.
Also, she was clever to be in the room with somebody who was villainized even more than she was, in the form of Blake Lively, who was going through a difficult period as well. So she knew she wasn't the most loathed person in that space. True or false, incognito mode makes you invisible on.
I need to be invisible. No, I don't.
The people that worked with her closely, Sam Kashner, said she demanded that the media do what she expects. I felt manipulated and betrayed. I felt played, orchestrated. And then describing her experience guest editing British Vogue, she worked pretty closely with the actual editor-in-chief, Edward Enninful. And you say over the 7 months, Meghan persuaded herself she was editing the issue. explaining that the editorial team showed silent exasperation with her. The staff also wondered, did she consider that she had crossed the line in her relationship with an infant? Now, this week, while promoting his new magazine, 72, he was asked and in full whether he would feature Meghan in his new magazine. And he apparently paused before replying, Meghan and I had a great moment with the issue we did, but I feel like I have done it and I wouldn't necessarily repeat myself. That felt like such a cold and clever response to me. Just hearing that, what is your initial reaction? Is he telling us more?
So we were going to cover this. We might cover it during our lives this weekend since it's being covered right now. But yeah, Enniful kind of like was like, no, I don't really need to work with her again. But you have to understand, I mean, he's really close to the king. He was part of the Prince's Trust, which is the King's Trust now. He was awarded the OBE. I mean, nobody wants to get on the royal family's bad side. So obviously, when he was working with Meghan, it must have been as maybe a favor, or he just, he wanted to be nice. But obviously, she must be a nightmare to work with.
More than he means to tell us with that quote?
I think that the Vogue September issue, which was the biggest sale of Vogue in its history in 2019, clearly she put a lot into it, but it was all done for her. And it was a great success from her point of view and from Vogue's and his. They fell out over her attempt 3 years later to get the cover story when she went to Manchester and appeared in a One World charity event. And she wanted the cover and control of the content, and they had a huge argument. And that meant that he was really finished with her. He'd had enough of her prima donna behavior.
Oh my gosh, she wanted him to cover that awful event where she wore the red outfit. Are you kidding me? That would have been the biggest slap in the face to the royal family. She actually had the nerve to think British Vogue would put her on the cover? Oh my goodness. What a nightmare.
And that's why he's dumped her. But also, I mean, from his point of view, what does she now bring? There isn't anything original. There's no great sales point there. And I think you've got to look at something else. You mentioned at the beginning Sam Cashner, who did the Vogue piece, Wild About Harry.
Yeah.
Now, that was a very interesting story there because I spent a lot of time talking to Cashner, and the whole chapter on the Vogue cover story is absolutely fascinating about her before she marries Harry. After the article, my book came out, Cashner went berserk and said that he'd never spoken to me and had no idea when he did speak to me what I'd written. And in fact, I'd called him and read him everything so that he knew. And why did he somersault? Because he was under pressure from Meghan. And Meghan, when she puts on pressure with all her lawyers and all the rest of it, is a terrifying machine. I mean, it's what you call the Sussex war machine. And Cashner felt it and was very upset about it.
That's what Sophie Chandakwa called it too. So they must really be in the culture when people say it, the Sussex war machine. Wow.
And I was upset that he was upset because I had behaved impeccably.
Mm-hmm.
But that is where Innful.
It did feel like a little ego was involved though, because I remember one of the statements I read didn't actually deny that he spoke to you, but he said he didn't have a lisp or something like that. Wasn't it that he didn't deny that he had a lisp or something?
I think what really happened was he was afraid that he wouldn't get future interviews with celebs if he'd spoken in that way. Yeah. Could he be trusted? I mean, I understand from his point of view. From my point of view, it was priceless. Yeah. It was fascinating. He gave a great insight into the woman, which proved to be the truth. She's a manipulator and an oppressor and hates the free press if it's not doing exactly what she wants. And that is her problem now. That whatever she produces, there's a huge constituency, regardless of how good or how bad she is, who will say it's dreadful, boring. And people, women journalists, especially in Britain, make their fortune by deriding everything she does. I mean, columns of the Times and the Mail, everything, are devoted to ridiculing Meghan Markle. And of course, that is terrible for her, not to be the glowing icon which she wants to be, the great feminist, the person who received these prizes from the Kennedys or whoever, but an object and a vehicle for writing how ridiculous she is. And once you get that smell, once the smell of ridicule touches you, very hard to remove it.
When you mentioned the Manchester piece, wasn't it probably from Enninful's point of view inappropriate because the Queen had just died, hadn't she? So wouldn't that have been inappropriate to put Meghan on the cover of the magazine when
It depends on when if she wanted him to cover it, then no, she had not died yet. She died, what was it, 2 days later? Because then they were supposed to go to Well Child. Ugh, I remember like it was yesterday when the Queen passed away. So sad.
Britain was still in mourning over the longest reigning queen that they'd had? I mean, it was still such a sensitive time.
I know, but she was about to die. But the argument had happened weeks before
Okay.
because their
Yeah.
lead time is much longer. So the Queen didn't come into it. What came into it was he had a cover already. He didn't want her on the cover. And she tried to interfere with the online content. And he said, well, you can't control it. And that was her point. She wanted control. And that's where she's now falling out because people will increasingly will not give her control. I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the first time it really went bad for her was an article in The Cut. And then the Hollywood Reporter was pretty rude about her.
Yeah.
And now Vanity Fair. I mean, it's tough on her. How does she recover? What does she do to stage the comeback? And that's always the story with these people. I mean, there's only two ways, either up or down. And at the moment, as we said right at the beginning, it's down.
They do cherry pick who they work with right now. I mean, even with People magazine has just become this glorified Sussex press release outlet. We saw that Harry handpicked who was allowed to travel with him throughout his faux royal tour in the last few weeks. And of course, that led to a lot of positive press in his direction because the original source was ooey gooey and glowing because they had that access. So they're definitely can still trying to control the media, and they have found some of those friendly outlets that will do exactly what they want. And I just don't trust those outlets now going forward. I never click on a People magazine link because I know exactly who the source is and I know that there's an ulterior motive.
I agree with Kinsey on like you can't believe what they're saying, but I think People magazine is very valuable, and that's why Stephanie and I always cover it because it is Meghan and Harry's voice. So it's like know your enemy, and I just feel like every time they put something out, they want us to know that. They want us to know what's going on, and this is their version of the truth. And I think it's still valuable to read those. I really do.
Well, yes, you're right. What was remarkable about on his trip to Ukraine that he took a journalist from the Guardian newspaper, which is totally Republic, very, very left wing,
Yeah,
very
get rid of your
anti-royalist, and has never had a good word to say for Harry. But
Mhm.
clearly, and then they suckered into it because they couldn't believe their good luck to get such a story. And even the Ukraine visit was a very clever bit of PR, which did work too. Harry is in a different position to Meghan because in the end, there's always a story. And you've got to remember,
It's true,
if,
Jenna.
God forbid, something happened to the Prince of Wales and all his family, Harry would be the British king. He still is in the line of succession.
No,
And that must never be forgotten. So he
no,
can't be written off
no.
until William is king. And I think then he'll banish him forever. Whereas
Yes.
Meghan always has to fight for a place. She has to fight for the spotlight. She has to fight to be seen. And being seen is critical to her. And she can't. If there's another shooting, she can't fly there as she did to Uvalde in Texas before. People won't take her seriously, and that's her problem. What can she do? so people take her seriously. And that is where she has very, very badly misplayed it. I mean, it was a great mistake to annoy the Vogue people, and a great mistake to annoy all these different journalists, because you can only do it once. You can only behave badly once in these cases, and she's done it too often, and her number of supporters, so to speak, diminishes, and that's why People magazine is still so important to her.
Mm, ugh. Hard eye roll. All right. Meghan was angry that the palace officials refused to protect her image. You go into this, and this is similar to what we're talking about with the media. She refused to accept that staff were not employed to promote her as an individual, but instead placed her within a grid of the entire royal family. In particular, Meghan fumed about the refusal officially to criticize her father, Thomas Markle. From her perspective, Meghan was isolated and vulnerable. Who does she blame now? Now that the palace isn't there, who does she blame for not protecting her? Is it Harry?
No, I think that that's her problem. She always in the past had someone to blame. Now the only blame can be on herself, and on people like me who don't accept everything she says with absolute unadulterated praise and glory and gratitude. Uh, she doesn't see herself other than always being victimized because people don't recognize her greatness and generosity and campaigning fervor. We look for it but don't find it, and that's what's. But on the other hand, what's interesting is that Ted Sarandos, the head of Netflix, when he dumped her, didn't say we're dumping her because she's no good. He said she's a rock star and brilliant and has been a great pathfinder, and couldn't stop oodling out praise for her having dumped her. And that's the point. She's still got agents and people who can get the best out of a terrible position, and she's fighting. And that was her problem in the palace, going back to her issue when she was in Britain, that they wouldn't fight for her in the same way that she wanted, because she wasn't the most important person. She
Mm-hmm.
was part of a team. She was part of a family. She wasn't Duchess of Sussex alone. And therefore she had to come under more important people. And that's what, of course, she resented. The Queen, Charles, Kate, and William, these are all more important than her. And she couldn't understand that there is a hierarchy, that there is a pecking order, and she wasn't on top. And that now, of course, is even worse for her because she's slipping down the pecking order.
She is. Now, one of the and I know you've been so gracious with your time. I'm almost wrapping up. So thank you again so much for talking to me. One of the stories I didn't catch the first couple of times I read this book, but it just jumped out at me when I was reviewing the book to talk to you. So you write, Harry's daughter was born at Santa Barbara's Cottage Hospital on the 4th of June, on the same day, but 2 days before the birth was announced. Meghan's lawyers registered the Lilibet.com website after the birth, but before the public announcement. Harry called the Queen. He told his grandmother about the birth and their decision to call their daughter Lilibet. I I was so mad about Harry and his grandmother that I never registered that they had purchased a URL before they had the courtesy to tell the Queen about this child's name. I'm appalled by that. It just shows you how commercially driven these people are.
But it's much worse even than that, because in Harry's version, he called his grandmother and said they decided to call the daughter Lilibet, and would the Queen approve? And the Queen did approve. The palace then, in the most unusual departure from their normal practice, called the BBC, royal commentator, reporter, and told him on the contrary. He didn't ask for permission, he announced it, and the Queen was utterly furious. When the BBC broadcast the story, saying that Harry wasn't telling the truth, his lawyers in London threatened the BBC with a writ for defamation unless they apologized and paid damages. Well, the palace told the BBC, don't you apologize at all. What we've told you is the truth. And of course, then Harry had to withdraw because it was the truth. So we go back to the beginning and say,
I didn't
when
know
they
that.
gave her that name and the whole registration, everything, this was pure commercialization. I'm sure inspired by Meghan, because Harry hasn't got a commercial strand in his body, wouldn't understand it all. And so what you really are faced with is that she decided to monetize, as she has on every occasion, the royal family. Whether it's the coat of arms or whether it's calling herself a duchess, she actually monetized the Queen's name. And I find that that alone is pretty damning of her. I mean, it was a shocking thing to do, but she's ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
She she thought this is good for me, and it's good for the business. And of course, after that was the whole struggle to get Archie and Lilibet called Prince and Princess, which Charles the King resisted for some time until the baptism in their garden, I think, of Lilibet. And then the palace surrendered. They just couldn't fight him, which of course was a mistake, and we proven to be a terrible mistake. But
So gross.
that's where we are. But that was Meghan being absolutely single-minded. She was going to always make sure her children had a link, and more than just a link, to the royal family in Britain. You know, she's always
Yes.
so envious of Kate and her children. She hates it when she sees Kate and her children dominating the news waves. And then she quickly drags out Lilibet and
The
has her do
the back
something.
of Lilibet, the back of her.
Because that's Harry.
Yeah.
He won't have that on the face.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, Catherine, you talk in the book about Kate was filmed laughing with Jill Biden. Meghan, you write, could see the unequal struggle for attention. She will have hated last week's state visit, huh? She would have just seethed.
Absolutely. And it was a wonderful photo opportunity in Cornwall, in the gardens of Eden there. And quite clearly, Kate was getting on very well with Mrs. Biden, who, of course, was very much Harry and Meghan's chosen friend in the Biden administration. So that would have annoyed them enormously that Mrs. Biden was not as loyal to the Sussexes. And of course, what happened then was after the Queen's funeral, they did ask Mrs. Biden whether they could return to America with her on Air Force One. And Jill Biden said no, that she wasn't going to insult the royal family. And that, again, is one of those problems that the Sussexes now face, that the A-listers don't want to annoy the British royal family. So whether it's the Obamas or Clooney's, none of them seem to want to invite the Sussexes to their parties. And the Bidens, well, I don't think they're inviting anyone at the moment. But that relationship, it had its purpose. It did help them. But that's now obviously been extinguished.
Yeah, it had their purpose while Harry and Meghan were basically saying vote for Joe Biden during the 2020 election, thanks to the ABC Time special. All right, agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. We're going to talk about your next book because you have a new Harry and Meghan book coming out. And don't let me forget when we talk about that, I want to ask you to break down how Harry and Meghan were livid over not being on the balcony during the Platinum Jubilee because Meghan wanted that shot for Netflix, because that is also one of my favorite parts of your book. But you are a very important man, so you have places to be right now. I'm so grateful for your time today, Tom Bauer. You know you are my favorite author.
You say that to everybody.
Do you have a date, or is there some?
Well, it'll be out early next year, the new book.
Something to look
Early
forward
next
to.
year.
I cannot wait, Tom Bauer. Thank you.
Oh, wow. We just have to get through the holidays. Oh, this is like the best. Early. Oh, this is going to be so good. I'm so excited for this new book. Oh, I think it's going to it's just, do you see how excited? I'm just so excited. This is like my favorite book ever. It's the only thing that I can like read and really get through. I've read it 3 times. I love it. And my friend Karen sent it to us. It was so much fun. That was fun watching that with you guys. We should do this like all the time because I'm always like watching stuff and then we cover it. And I'm like, why don't we just watch it together? It'll be a little easier. And Stephanie can get some rest. We'll be back tomorrow, obviously, doing. A lot of people were talking in the chat, and this was one of the best chats ever. You guys are freaking hilarious, knowledgeable. We really do have the best group. But tomorrow we're going to talk about the Stassi Schroeder stuff. And then, yeah, they did apparently buy a new award to do with mental health. I don't know these people that are letting them do it. I don't get it. But whew, that was so much fun. Tom Bauer is the man. Does anybody have anything to say? I really appreciate that if you did enjoy this little session of ours, that you go to the link in the description box below. And if you have any love to give, you can give. It's Second Chance Rescue. They are foster based for animals and cats. And I'm glad that I'm bringing this up because a lot of us were talking in the chat about charities and how, like, big charities, especially like Archwell and stuff, they don't give a lot to the actual cause. It's more about employees. And that's why Stephanie and I like to focus on the foster rescues, because the foster rescues have no overhead. They don't have a big center. Some do, but a lot of them just have kind volunteers that will take the animals into their home. And the reason why they need the money is because they pay for the vet bills, the food, but it's all volunteer. It's amazing. And Second Chance, I think it's called New York Second Chance. I have it right here. But I always appreciate it when you guys go there. And if you don't have anything to give, that's fine, because I mean, hey, there's times of the month where I definitely don't have a lot to give, but I do share it with friends and family, and that makes a huge difference. Here we go. Second Chance Rescue. They've been saving a lot of cats and dogs out of shelters lately. So let's see if we can give to them if we can. If not, like I said, not a big deal. Just sharing it helps. So we really appreciate it. And this was so much fun. I want to do this every night with you guys. It's so much fun. I was supposed to be in Edmonton this weekend, going to see my boyfriend's show, but my mom broke her arm playing pickleball, if you're new here. And yeah, it's a lot. So between the pets and then mom's got her appointment tomorrow, and we'll let you guys know. Yeah, 2026 is going to be our year. Meghan writing 2025 in the sand. Well, I feel like that's our year too. She couldn't take that year away from us. So yeah, let's see. Is this a good time to do it too? Like, I feel like there were a lot of people here too. I mean, just hanging out. So maybe we should, if you guys ever want to chat, I'm here. Let's see. I cannot get through to the shelters for my country. It's a lot easier to super chat. Well, that's great, and I really appreciate it, but I would rather have you give then to a local restaurant, a local rescue in your area than give us super chats. And the reason is, and I love you, YouTube. You guys are the best employers ever. I love you guys. But oh, I'm Vicky, I'm already waiting for the snow. Trust me, I'm already waiting. The YouTube takes, I don't know if it's 30% or 40%, but they take a chunk of the super chats and the tips. And this isn't against any of my friends that try to raise money for stuff through their channels, but Stephanie and I would rather have it go directly to the charities, and that way there's no middleman. But we do appreciate the super chats. It does make its way over to the charities. But just so you guys know, I would rather have you go to a local rescue. If you can't do stuff in America, that would be great. Is it 40%? Yeah, it's 30-40%. I just know any percent is too much to be giving to a charity, and especially when it's towards something. But that's just on our channel. Like I said, it has nothing to do with other people's channels. They can do whatever they want. So Nancy, how do I send a rescue your way? Can you tell me right now? I'll write it down. A lot of people will put it in the comments, or email me here, guys. Kate, I'll send you my email. What the hell is my email? Oh, Sidley Twins @gmail.com. There we go. But yeah, I'm always looking for rescues, local restaurant, just the small ones, because like we've done fundraisers here for American Humane and Humane Society when the hurricanes happened and the fires, and they do get it too. Okay, that's what it's called. Let me just type it into my phone and that way I have it. Thank you. Thank you so much. No, we appreciate it because then we can learn. And what is about? There's something about Disney. Oh, okay. Oh no, this has to do with Jimmy Kimmel. Oh my God, who else is sick of reading about Jimmy Kimmel? We get it, dude. We get it. Okay, got it. Rescue in Texas. Awesome. Thanks, Kate. I appreciate that. We will feature it. Okay, guys. Yeah, hit the like button. That's all I ask. It does help with the algorithm to get us out there. And we did. I got it, Kate. Yeah, it came up on there right away. It helps with the algorithm just so we could keep getting these videos out there. I put a video up of what we discussed the other day of Meghan prompting Oprah to say you mean to tell me that the royal family would have a problem if your baby was too brown? And then Meghan going, yeah, well, if that's the assumption you're coming up with, I would say that's a good one. So I'm paraphrasing, of course. But yeah, that's like, we have to get those videos out there because there are so many people that did not know this information. Like, I'll show people and I'll be like, look at this. Look at this. Okay, Lisa's got to go. We all got to go. But I will see you tomorrow. I love you guys so much. Maybe I'll do a pop-up live while Mom and Dad and Stephanie are at the orthopedic just to make the time go faster because I'll be nervous and wanting to know what happened. So I love you guys. You're awesome. And thanks for being my friend. Thanks for being Stephanie's friend. And we will see you tomorrow.